NC pork, good for the plate, great for the state.
Welcome back to the David Glenn Show, now seen and heard exclusively here on the North Carolina Sports Network. Our guest today is a native of Sanford, North Carolina. He was a star player at North Carolina Wesleyan University in Rocky Mount. He was a longtime assistant coach at the University of North Carolina, and for the past 5 years, he has been the head coach in Chapel Hill. In 2022, his Carolina squad won the ACC Baseball Championship, and just last year, when he was named the ACC Coach of the Year, he led the Tar Heels to the best regular season record in the ACC, a trip to the College World Series, and a number 4 end-of-season national ranking. Now his 2025 team is back in the national top 5. He has cultivated one of the best pitching staffs in the entire country, and he has a gritty, everyday lineup that includes 7 guys who have started every game the Heels have played so far this season. Coach Scott Forbes, welcome to the David Glenn Show. How are you?
I'm wonderful. We're not playing on a Saturday, obviously, but we have graduation here. I'd be doing a little better. I believe in being process-oriented, but a little better if we'd have found a way to pull that one off last night. But it's 1-1. You know how it is with State and Carolina, so tomorrow will be awesome on Mother's Day.
Well, I'm dying to know, just as a starting point, given that you were a young man growing up here in North Carolina in the later 70s, the 1980s, were you already a fan of the Tar Heels in a general sense, or even UNC baseball in particular? Or did you have to adjust to this shade of blue a little later in life?
Man, I don't have a lime bone in my body. And I was the exact opposite. I grew up an NC State family. My grandfather was a dairy farmer. He graduated from NC State. He ran the Wake Forest plantation a long time ago.
Wow.
Then he bought his own land in Wake Forest and was a dairy farmer. So I just grew up going to state games. And if anything, it was the opposite, the polar opposite. I remember playing for Coach Fox at North Carolina Wesleyan at the time, still going back and forth with him because he was such a big Tar Heel. But obviously, I've been here now a long time, and that has changed quickly. My best friend growing up, we had a bunch of land at Sanford. They were huge Carolina fans. So I got to come over here. I remember going to the Dean Dome thinking like, man, you must have to have a lot of money to go to a game here. Because it was so nice. And I was actually at that game where Len Bias scored all those points as a young kid.
Wow.
I ate at the Rat Skeller a lot. And he had graduated from law school here, my best friend's family. And then he ended up going to NC State to be a veterinarian, and I ended up coaching at UNC. So now he's a state guy, and I'm a Carolina guy, so we joke about it all the time.
Well, you have some fun wrinkles to your baseball journey, but I want to ask one off-the-wall question just about your personal journey. At home, you are surrounded by 3 women, your wife, Mandy, your daughters, Hannah and Allie. At work, you're pretty much surrounded by dudes everywhere you look. Is that as dramatic a shift between 2 completely different worlds as it sounds like it might be?
Not really. My wife played college softball at North Carolina Wesleyan. That's where we met. My older daughter plays volleyball at UNC Wilmington. My younger daughter will play volleyball most likely somewhere in college. She's 16, and they're very competitive. And Mandy, my wife's done a great job. They came along with us a lot to all these series and these games. But obviously it is different. I love being a girl dad. It gives me a lot of balance. They keep me balanced. They don't let me, I'll walk in and we lose. They ain't going to listen to any of it. Hey, let's move on and eat a good meal and be positive and be ready the next day. But I've been really blessed. They are phenomenal, a phenomenal 3 ladies, and no drama with them. I've been very, very lucky.
As a baseball guy, Coach, I am fascinated by the fact that as a college player, you were an outstanding hitter. during your time as an assistant with the Tar Heels, it did include you were kind of the hitting instructor, hitting guru. And yet you have this resume that also includes mentoring 7 of the 10 winningest pitchers in Carolina history. How the heck does a great batter who went to the College World Series during your time at Wesleyan, how and when did you make this conversion to pitching guru? Because the last I looked, your Tar Heels this year are like top 5 in the nation in earned run average.
Yeah, I was just really, really lucky. Number one, when Coach Fox, I was a catcher, so I always had an idea of calling a game. Coach Fox let me call the game at North Carolina Wesleyan. He trusted me with that. When I was here as a volunteer, I worked with Roger Williams, who was really good. He's still the pitching coach now at Louisville. Big time mentor of mine. I learned a ton about pitching from him. Then went to Winthrop and worked with the hitters, and then came back here when Coach called me when Coach Williams left to go to Georgia. Said, "Do you want to be the pitching coach?" I was like, of course I said yes. But I was really nervous. I'd never been a pitching coach. I just tried to apply what Coach Williams had taught me. But most importantly, I realized quickly that we had Andrew Miller, Daniel Bard, Robert Woodard, just to stay out of the way and give them the ball and not say much. So they taught me as much early on, those guys. And then as I continued to be a pitching coach, I was telling you, I was in Wilmington because my daughter graduated yesterday. I was listening to a podcast yesterday with Nick Saban, sat down with some folks, and he said it best. I've never been able to be a great coach with bad players. Great players make great coaches, and we've had unbelievable pitchers. So I just emphasize recruiting, getting the right pitchers, putting an emphasis on the type of pitcher that we want here, and we continue to do that. And now we have essentially 2 pitching coaches, Coach Gaines and Coach Howell. So I've just been really blessed and thankful that Coach Fox gave me that opportunity a long time ago. But man, we've recruited well, and with all this new stuff now, I'm glad I'm not the pitching coach. There's a lot to it, more to it than it used to be.
Scott Forbes is joining us on the David Glenn Show. Speaking of Coach Fox, he is probably the greatest coach in the history of UNC baseball. 7 trips to the College World Series in his 22 years there in Chapel Hill. And you have known that man since 1994 or earlier. I say 94 because that's when you started playing for him at North Carolina Wesleyan. This is a hard thing, I know, to summarize in a short number of words, but how do you encapsulate what you learned from him as a player, what you learned from him when he was the head coach and you were one of his assistants, as you, of course, have built this very successful program in the aftermath of his retirement?
It would take me a long time to
It's a book, right?
It's a book. I remember in high school, Coach Fox recruited me. I wasn't a great student, so I didn't have many options. And he was at my American Legion games a lot in Siler City. And I remember my dad he didn't give me a lot of input because he wanted me to make the decision, but he thought that would probably be the best place for me. But I chose a junior college because you're young and you think, hey, I'm really good. I'm going to go to this junior college and get drafted and sign after 1 year. And after going to Middle Georgia, the baseball side went well, but the rest didn't go great. And Coach Fox really just kind of gave me a chance when a lot of people probably shouldn't have. Not a good student, average decision maker. And from the first day I walked in there, the impact he made until, I got done coaching as a man sticks out the most. He held us accountable. We had discipline. He loved us. There was a lot of tough love. You had to be tough to play for Coach Fox. But then when you figured out, okay, this is why he's doing what he's doing. And those years at North Carolina Wesleyan shaped me and helped shape me. You need somebody more than just your parents. And he was the number one person there. A great husband, a great family man, and he lived it. He didn't just preach it. But then when I got to coach with him, you pay attention, or you should pay attention to things. And I always thought, well, if I'm ever a head coach, I wasn't sure if I would be. I do know that I am not the person Coach Fox is. We have different personalities. Of course, everybody does. But the blueprint to how to run a program, even if I'd said that, get out of coaching and run a business, I felt like he had that figured out, from not cutting corners, from good old-fashioned work ethic, discipline, communication, not taking a day off, practice planning, I just said, well, if I'm ever a head coach, I'm doing everything Coach Fox did for the most part. Obviously, I'm not him, so I'll put my own spin on it personality wise, but just to try to do what he did and stay with that blueprint. Because if you go all the way back to North Carolina Wesleyan, all the way back to his 1 year at Millbrook High School, I mean, we were good at North Carolina Wesleyan. And I remember walking into North Carolina Wesleyan, David, and thinking, oh man, this is a D3. I'm going to come in here and hit in the 4 hole and start. And I remember after 2 days thinking, I'm never going to play. Get that caliber of player. So, just so much I learned. But those two things, the character side and integrity, the importance of that, and good decision making that he held us accountable for. If you didn't, it's kind of like the way I grew up in Sanford with my dad. If you didn't make a good decision, I call it a reckoning. And with Coach Fox, there was a reckoning, and it was either playing time back then. Can't do it like we used to. It was running until you couldn't walk. But I'm just so thankful for it. It helped me shape me and make me who I am today for sure.
I love your description earlier that you do not have a lion bone in your body, and those who know you describe you that way. But not everybody, Coach, likes to be fully transparent and share everything, right? And I remember a part of your story, I believe it was in 2022, where you said you had kind of a reckoning in just the purpose behind how you coach.
Yeah.
And I believe it was faith-based, and you just had a recalibration, still the same man, I guess, but why you did things and to some degree how you did things. Remind us, what were those changes and what was behind that recalibration for you?
Obviously this is my 28th season, I think. So you try to reflect a lot. Two things that stood out for me in that recalibration is, there was a time after we'd been to Omaha 4 years and we had that 2013 season. We were like 59-14. And you're just trying to climb the ladder. And that's really not why I got into coaching. But at the time, you're still like, I had an interview at Auburn. I didn't get the job. They hired Sonny Galloway. And that opened my eyes a little bit then, like, okay, well, if I'm not going to be a head coach, I need to make sure that I am being the best assistant coach there is and loyal and working my tail off for Coach Fox and his program. But the real reckoning for me came as a head coach. 2021 was just, my head was spinning. Coach, I sat down with Roy Williams, and he told me, your heart's not going to slow down for 365 days. You'll learn the most in that first year. And, David, there was a point where I thought, hey, we're going to have a losing record. Like, man, I don't know if I'm cut out for this or not.
Oh, you had the pandemic, too. You had all sorts of things going on.
Yeah, and I don't believe in excuses, but it was a lot to learn. Then the transfer portal came in, and then NIL. And then in 2022, we started off really hot. I liked our team. We had some good young players. And then we just couldn't win. And we're at Virginia, and my parents, they try to go when they can. They went obviously, but they still live in Sanford. They're getting older. They have 2 younger grandkids that they have things they have to do with, but they came to Virginia. We have a lead, I think, on Saturday. We blow it. We already lost 2, and I'm eating dinner with them. And I just remember getting done with dinner, not remembering anything that we talked about. And getting in my hotel room thinking like, now, wait a second. I am not practicing what I preach to these players. I'm a huge Nick Saban fan about being in the moment, being present, being process oriented. And all I'm thinking about is the wrong things. So I'm going to start just focusing on the right things. I have a great wife who is phenomenal with positivity and, reminding me why I coach, making an impact, helping players develop like Coach Fox did for us.
Yeah,
you want to win. But you get this thought in your head like, hey, if I don't win, what if? Or if I just said, you know what, forget it. Whatever. Like, I'm the head coach at the University of North Carolina. Who knows how long it's going to last? I never dreamed I'd be a head coach at a school like this. So I'm going to dive into it with these players, try to make them believe, be positive, work hard every day at practice. And that was a big changing point for me. And since that time, we're all competitive. We all make mistakes. That's just what and now it was all faith-based too. Like, okay,
yeah,
am I trying to coach for the articles, for being the head coach, for getting to Omaha, instead of the player, the human element, getting them to Omaha. And that's what was so special about last year. As soon as we get that last out, I'm can tell I'm centered in the right place because I'm so excited for those guys because I watched them be crushed in 22 when we made the run and got walked off by Arkansas. And I also learned during that season that you can flip a season just like that. And it doesn't matter if you start 25-2. You have to just keep trying to get better, not get complacent. But most importantly, I just decided I want this place, Boshamer Stadium, for these players to be their place. That they know that when they come down here, they're going to have a blast. They're going to be cared about. They're going to be loved. Yes, we're going to try to maximize their potential and get them better because, we want to win. We're North Carolina. But I think you can do both. Bill Walsh, great book. The score will take care of itself.
Yeah.
Nick Saban, again, said his whole life and his coaching reason changed when he started becoming more, transformational instead of transactional. And he said his wife, he came home, I was listening to this podcast. He says, wow, I just don't know why the media looks at me this way. She goes, well, maybe you should look in the mirror. And, that's what I decided to do, to have that mirror conversation in Charlottesville, and woke up the next day and we got swept. And it didn't go well right away, but I think that's so valuable. And these kids put more pressure on themselves now than they ever have. So another goal of ours as a staff is to get them to play free and to not have that fear of failure and to trust their preparation. So it can be hard at times and you have to recenter yourself for sure. But the best way to do that, in my opinion, is I don't read any of no offense, I'm not going to go back and rewatch this show. I'm not going to get on a message board. I'm not going to get on Twitter. I'm going to get down there in that field today and walk around and talk to our players and congratulate the graduates, and I'm going to have fun too.
The original Salt Works has become a legendary breakfast, brunch, and lunch place in Wilmington for both locals and out-of-town visitors over the last 50-plus years. Our good friend Bob Hubbard owns the place, but he's also the one cooking your food and often roaming the dining room to greet you with a smile and to make sure your visit is a great one. Bob has been running the show at this unique roadside diner for more than 20 years now, and he and his friendly, hardworking staff aim to treat you like one of their own. Try Bob's homemade omelets or special recipe grits for breakfast or his legendary cheeseburgers for lunch. The original Salt Works, your breakfast and lunch choice on Oleander Drive in Wilmington. Michael Berard, Managing Director Investments with the Founders Group at Stifel, works with a select group of high net worth individuals and institutions to develop and implement investment plans tailored to their specific objectives and risk tolerances. If you are interested in highly personalized, well-researched guidance and outstanding personal service, you can contact Michael at 984-364-2002. That's 984-364-2002. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE. Scott Forbes is joining us on the David Glenn Show. You mentioned that broader culture within Carolina athletics. As a young man, I covered the Tar Heels when Dean Smith won his second national title in 1993. And then Sylvia Hatchell with women's basketball wins the national title. Anson Dorrance was in the middle of his women's soccer, dynasty. Does that broader culture, does it bleed into your job as the UNC baseball coach in any way? Do you sense, I believe it's now 8 different sports on campus have done that, at least one NCAA title. And then given what you just described, is the pursuit of a national title that the Diamond Heels have knocked on the door and knocked on the door. I think I've seen, a dozen myself. I'll never forget Coach Dean Smith after winning his first title saying, I don't feel like a better coach today than I was yesterday. Mm-hmm. Essentially getting back to honoring the process that you were describing rather than completely results oriented, but you have to think about results. So that's a long-winded way of asking, how does the pursuit of a national championship fit into even your conversations with your own players and staff? And do you feel that bleeding over from sport to sport? Because UNC has been described as that university of national champions.
I definitely feel that in a good way. And I look at it as like I can learn from these coaches that have won national championships. And And it is the standard. That is what we make it. To answer your question, David, we have our first team meeting. Hey, what do we want? We want to win national championships. What do the players say? Okay, well, we just said it. We don't need to say it the rest of the time. That's the standard here. That's what we're trying to do. And I've been in the dugout twice in national championship games and been that close. And I know how difficult it is. But I do agree with that, with what Coach Smith. It's the pursuit that I enjoy the most now as I've gotten older, and I think that gives you a better chance to win it. Doesn't mean we will, but we're sure going to try. And we've created our own standards. Coach Fox talked about it all the time. If we hadn't been any good, ho hum, right? But we started going to Omaha. And that's where we want it. So we're the ones that are the most upset as coaches when we don't get these players to where we want to get them to, and for our fans, but more for our players and our program and our university. But that is the standard. I always think about Mike Martin, a huge mentor of mine.
Yeah.
And I think he went 19 times and never won it.
Crazy.
And I'm thinking, that's just, but I do know the impact he had, and every former player I talked to, the impact is so tremendous. So I'm a huge Dean Smith fan too, like sustained success. That's my biggest goal. Do we want to win a national championship? Absolutely. We're going to try every single year. We're going to do everything we can. But I also have a lot of respect for someone like Mike Martin that made it almost every year. And you can't take them with you, but you sure would like to find a way, to win it. But I can tell you this, if we do win it, I'm going to wake up the next morning in today's world, David, and I'll be on the phone recruiting because it's just the way it works until you stop coaching, and that pursuit never stops. And I don't ever want to let that guard down. And the way I'm natured is that's what we're going after. That's what we're going after. But we're also going after, the improvement and the process. But yeah, there are some unbelievable programs and athletes here. Olympians. It's 28 sports. And now, though, it's different. The challenges, every team has different challenges because NIL is much more of a factor in certain programs than others. So it's going to be interesting to see where we are in 4 to 5 years.
Speaking of recruiting, last year's team included the All-American Vance Honeycutt, who was just so much fun to watch. He now, of course, is in professional baseball, as are a half a dozen of your other guys from last year. When I look at your team this year, Luke Stevenson, the catcher, kind of jumps out as one of your future professionals. Beyond talent, Coach, even I probably would have watched those guys in high school and said, yeah, I'd like him on my college team. Beyond talent, what do you and your staff look for in recruits that fit your way? And then how many other things are in your recruiting pitch to come to Carolina beyond, hey, we hope to prepare you for professional baseball?
Well, obviously the talent has to jump off the page.
Yeah.
And you have to be realistic too. Like, okay, what are we losing? Every team you're trying to put together different. Last year we lost about 85% of our offensive production, which is probably the most ever.
Wow.
So we're like, okay, we got to be realistic here. We're probably not going to win with 8 high school players on the field. That's where the transfer portal can help. Probably not going to hit 120 home runs. So how do we, our NIL budget's not $2.5 million. How do we try to get the right pieces? So for us, we always start with pitching and athleticism defensively to be able to make plays. And if we hit on a Vance Honeycutt and you hit on a Dustin Ackman, those are generational players. Yeah. But, they look at a guy like Tyson Bass and Alex Madera, these transfers, they're from different walks of life, but they're athletic. They can put pressure on defenses. So we have a model that we've come up with working together of what we're looking for. Number one, talent wise, it's kind of like, honestly, we've come up with our own in-house model like Coach Belichick had with Coach Saban. Another thing I heard if this guy doesn't do this, or he doesn't do this, or if he doesn't do this, we're probably going to walk away because it's going to be hard for us to put together the team we want to put together. Like if it's a pitcher and he's just throwing hard, but he can't throw it in the ocean, we're going to walk away. Or if we're at a game and the character side and the integrity side, there are too many red flags, or the parents are too many red flags, that's just not going to be a fit here. And then our biggest thing here at North Carolina is our player retention. If you just research, even in the new world, our players love it here. They don't want to leave. And they're also not, we're trying to help our players, but they could go to some of these SEC schools and receive a little more money.
Yeah.
our player development. Our players have come through this program and drafted high. We've had a lot of first round picks, a lot of high picks. And our culture, that's something I talked to them about. Like, listen, you're not going to, when you leave North Carolina, doesn't mean you're going to play every day. But I can promise you, as a coaching staff, you'll be loved, you'll be cared for, you'll be treated with respect. And we'll do everything we can to maximize your potential. With that being said, though, when I write the lineup out, I'm putting 9 in and I'm putting 1 pitcher. You know how that works. You can't play them all. But you can't leave this program, in my opinion, and everybody has their own opinion, and say that you weren't cared for and we didn't treat you with respect. Now, there's tough love here. You're going to be held accountable. You're going to go to class. You're going to work towards your degree. But I really believe in the backbone of your program has to be the standards and the culture. And I think that's how you have sustained success, because players know, they know, hey, this place is different or this place is not different, and I think you're seeing more of that on the portal. My hope is if a young man leaves North Carolina, it's because he just wants to play. And that's okay. Sometimes that's what it takes. You got to go into the portal and maybe go down or go to a different fit. But just building off that culture and making sure the players understand there's more to it, because 97% of the guys aren't going to play 98. Maybe 99 in the big leagues.
Right.
They don't think that. Every one of them thinks, hey, I'm going to be a big leaguer. But, we're doing a lot more here that they don't realize it. Hopefully they realize it as they get older, that hopefully will help them with their lives.
King Neptune Restaurant in Wrightsville Beach is the longest running restaurant in New Hanover County. That's since 1947. And it recently was renovated to an impeccable degree by our good friends Jimmy Galise and his amazing wife, Keaton. Their outstanding chefs offer fresh local seafood, salad options, and creative, tasty variations of pork, beef, and poultry dishes. King Neptune has always been a great choice for dinner and/or drinks, and now it's open for lunch and brunch too. Check out the lunch, brunch, and dinner menus at neptuneswb.com. That's Neptunes with an S, then WB for Wrightsville Beach. Again, the King Neptune Restaurant website is neptuneswb.com. Whether you are moving locally, nationally, or even internationally, and whether you're a residential or commercial customer, please consider our friends at XL Moving and Storage, an award-winning Allied Van Lines agent with offices in Greensboro and Raleigh. Thanks to their 25 years of experience helping North Carolinians all across the state with their moving and storage needs, XL has become the trusted hometown North Carolina moving services company. Our good friends Jim Dorsett and Jody Hatley, along with their hardworking staff, offer customized, tailored relocation and storage solutions to the people of North Carolina and beyond. Visit them online today at xlms.com. That's EXCELMS.com. Couple things you've already dealt with in your 5 years as the head coach. We mentioned immediately eligible transfers, name, image, likeness. We are about to enter a new world with revenue sharing and then changing name, image, likeness budgets. Obviously, your focus right now is maximizing the 2025 Tar Heels. For college baseball fans out there more generally, what's the best way to summarize what you think that new world is going to look like? Because roster caps are going to change. I don't even know how many scholarships you'll have to offer in the 2026 season. Like, man, there's a lot more change on the way.
There's so much. And it's I'm glad I became a head coach when I did. Because if I'd have been a 15, 20-year head coach, I had to learn. I didn't have a choice. We're trying to put together these teams. But obviously, I think the court case is going to go through. They're going to grandfather in some roster, but our roster is going to shrink. There is going to be revenue share. Obviously, football and basketball men's are going to get the bulk of that everywhere, in my opinion. Then you got most of the time, depending on the sports, like, where you are. Like if you're at Notre Dame, lacrosse might get rev share. But in our area, in the baseball world, David, in my opinion, to be a top 10 national team, I have a saying that I had, again, I stole from another coach, is Success will continue as long as the commitment to being successful stays in place. So really, it's up to the school. How are we going to commit to this sport, this sport, this sport, this sport? Because when you go into rev share, if school A has 200,000 of rev share and school B has $1 million,
yeah,
just do the math. I grew up in Sanford, North Carolina, and if I visited school A and school B, and one school gave me a full scholarship and $10,000, and another school gave me a full scholarship and $150,000, I don't know what I would do, but I think I might know what I would do.
Me too.
Not saying that's the right decision.
Sure.
Now the rev share is going to be easier to distribute, but then how are we going to still be able to use NIL? It's been the wild, wild west. I mean, if you want to give one of our players 150 grand, and you could, I mean, it's just been nuts. So they're saying that they're going to get their hands wrapped around that. Who knows? But what I do know is you'll have more scholarships, which baseball's been behind at 11.7. And if you're a school that's fortunate to get the commitment and have some rev share, that will help you. But there'll be some separation. You're going to have to be creative to stay competitive. If we're not where LSU and Arkansas and Ole Miss and Mississippi State and some of these SEC schools, if we're not where they are, how do we still compete? And that's where you're just looking for creative ways. And again, you can't make excuses. You got to deal with what you have and try to put together a really, really good team. But there are challenges, and I think when it's all said and done, though, I think the smaller roster is going to be good for everybody when it's capped, so you can't start a fall season with 65 players.
Yeah.
And just cut. We wouldn't do that anyway. So it's just a daily thing, too. Like, okay, are we trying to figure out how do we get it down? Does this guy stay? And now you don't have as many high school kids you're recruiting. Because if you got to get transfer portal guys, the portal opens June 1st. David, we had 4 commitments while we were in Omaha.
Wow.
Tyson Bass, I'm on the phone with him, talking to him about North Carolina. We're getting ready to play Virginia. So it's just kind of the world we live in. You got to embrace it and deal with it. And you have to adapt. You got to adapt or get out. That's the way I look at it.
I don't want to bump you into another commitment, so be as brief on this next question, and we can make it the last one if necessary. What makes the 2025 Tar Heels so tough to beat? I mean, you guys, you're on your way to another 40-plus win season. You're near the top of the ACC standings. Last I saw, one of the polls had you number 4 nationally, which is where you ended last season. Not easy to do that back-to-back. What's the unique fiber of this year's team that just makes them so hard to beat?
Chemistry is a powerful thing, and people talk about it a lot. It's not the only thing, but toughness combined with that, this team is tough, and we've had some challenges. For us to be where we are, for these guys to be where they are. We lost Manny Mathias, which was a huge blow for us.
Yeah,
I don't like to talk about injuries, but
great pitcher.
That's an everyday Eddie guy that I can pull out of my back pocket that's experienced, that I know is not afraid of any situation. So to overcome him and Percival, we had to overcome some of those last years. But if you look at it on paper, with what we lost, and to be where we are, it's a credit to our players. It's a credit to the Madeiras, the Stokeleys, the Knaps, instilling the culture to the new players that we had to bring in, because we had to go get a lot of new players. We're playing, Vanderbreak's back, but, we're playing a lot of new players. We're pitching a ton of freshmen. They're freshmen. We're pitching some transfers. So really, it's a good old group of hard-nosed, find-a-way players. I tell people all the time, we're not blowing people out, but we're just staying in games and finding ways. So I'm excited for them. They put themselves in a great position. It's the type of team, though, that I've told from the beginning. This team can't just show up. We had a couple of those teams with Chad Flack and Dustin Ackley. Sometimes it's like, just show up and you're going to win. You're that good. This team has to play every day. They have to play with intent. They have to play 27 outs. They have to move on quickly if we give up some runs, and be mentally tough. And they bought into it, and they continue to work. So who knows? Sometimes you can go farthest with teams that you just didn't expect to. I thought we had a chance to have a pretty good team and pitch it. But I'm just excited for the guys because look, we got NC State. Hopefully we play Wilmington. The weather looks terrible on Tuesday. Then we go to Florida State.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, oh, y'all got the hardest finish. And I'm like, well, that's how you want it.
Yeah.
You earn it that way. So when we get done, regardless, where we finish in the ACC, the hope is that we are prepared for the postseason. And I think this team potentially can be prepared and be ready for a tough regionals because regionals are so difficult.
Well, coaches, I thank you for your time. I will share something quickly since you shared so much with us. I am in Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina, and in my 37-year sports media career, this is the first interview I've ever conducted while on my wedding anniversary beach trip with my wife. We're married 27 years this month.
Congratulations.
Thank you. She's out on a yoga mat, so you don't have to feel like you're stealing me away from my wife on our wedding anniversary weekend. But the fact that you and your guy, William, were willing to kind of juggle some things for us, we really appreciate it. We enjoy watching your baseball team. We admire your story. So thanks for this very unusual visit. I tried to give you a view of the Atlantic Ocean, not the
that's awesome.
The light got a little weird when I had it directly behind me, but I'm in my hotel room, and I just appreciate you get the extra effort award for arranging this with us in the midst of a challenging series. Good luck the rest of the way, and we'll hope to have you on again in the future.
Yeah, enjoy your anniversary. I've got my 25th coming up. Like I told you, Wrightsville Beach, what a great place. I coached the Wilmington Sharks for 2 years.
Wow.
1999 and 2000. Coach Jackson was my assistant coach 1 year. I know Wrightsville Beach now like the back of my hand, and you enjoyed
you and Mandy, 25 years, man. All right. Look at
25, yeah. Like I told you, Hannah, my older daughter's at Wilmington, just graduated last night, and they're coming back today for Mother's Day tomorrow, but I was just in Wilmington. What hotel you at?
We are at what used to be called the Blockade Runner.
Yeah.
It's a new name now called Trailborn, but we got married, Coach. I'm not kidding you. Like over my left shoulder, that's where we got married 27 years ago, behind the Blockade Runner Hotel with the Atlantic Ocean in the background. My wife and I are both from the Northeast, and we wanted to give our northern relatives and friends, a reason to come down beyond the wedding itself. So they got to enjoy the Carolina coast for a series of events. And then it was like, wedding is right there. Reception is in the banquet room downstairs from where I'm sitting. And then they stayed at this hotel. So that's a succinct,
that's awesome.
Concise
my wife
wedding.
and I've stayed at the Blockade Runner many times. I didn't know they changed the name, but y'all enjoy that. We don't know what we're going to do. We have a little place at top, so we'll probably just go to top.
I get it. Hey, thanks again, man. This has been a lot of fun. Thanks for sharing so much of who you are and how you do things. And keep up the good work with the Tar Heels.
Thank you, and thanks for everything y'all do. Have a great anniversary.
Thank you, Coach. Take care. Thanks to all of you for joining us on the North Carolina Sports Network.